Nutrition seems overwhelming and inaccessible because there are a lot of people with a lot of authority advocating a lot of contradictory information. I spent about 12 years trying all of the diets, not as some kind of experiment, just because I wanted to figure out which one was the right one. I've tried everything you've heard of: carnivore, vegetarian, keto, paleo, Mediterranean, calorie counting, if you would count that as a diet, fasting. Through changing my nutrition, I alleviated a number of mental and physical health conditions and lost over 50 pounds. I've also helped a few other people get their nutrition on track, and I want to share what I've learned from my experience. Given the current state of nutrition culture, I don't want you to believe or disbelieve anything that I say. In this video, I'm not going to be giving you a list of food recommendations, restrictions, or other rules. I'm not going to talk about losing fat and gaining muscle. Those are things I'll talk about in the future, but that's not what this is for. The purpose here is to create a conscious awareness so that you can make any information that you consume about nutrition and diet accessible and personalized to you. At a base, there is really only one human diet. This diet is what we've labeled food. Out of all the different materials on Earth, this range of consumables is called food. I suppose drugs could arguably fall under the same category. I would call this range of consumables in their unprocessed forms the diet. Within the diet, we apply slight variations in various levels of processing, which you know as the popular diets and food products today. There's a very simple lapse in attention that is causing a lot of problems. A significant chunk of your current emotions, thoughts, and physical sensations are not caused by some external event, but by the food that you're eating. If you were to mistake your current state of being for something caused by an external event, instead of the result of something that you consumed, you can easily begin to distort the circumstances of your life. When someone drinks too much caffeine and they become jittery, you'll hear the turn of phrase, "It's the caffeine." I'd like to extend this turn of phrase to apply to all food. For most people, their window of awareness when it comes to food is around 15 minutes to a few hours. After that, they stop considering that their current state could be a product of something that they ate. However, depending on the food that you eat, it can take up to 72 hours to absorb into your system and assimilate as your body tissue, your bones, joints, muscles, etc., and even longer to be eliminated from your system, which can cause its own problems. It's entirely possible to eat something in the afternoon and have trouble sleeping later because it's causing distress in your body. Or eat some junk food that makes your joints feel stiff and your skin feel clammy 20 or 30 hours later. Or become anxious and angry 10 or 15 hours after drinking caffeine. If you're not aware of that, you can easily mistake the effect from your nutrition as a more pervasive health problem. Or you'll begin to look at your family members, boss, partner, friends, or life situations and assume that your feeling is caused by them. I'm not going to go into precise time frames because everybody processes food at a different rate. I debated going into a lot of detail about the digestive process, but I thought that would take away from the experiential focus. So I'm going to highlight some things that you can put your attention on with minimal background of the digestive process, but it's still there as a guideline. Explaining the processes of the body in detail usually makes it look like something in a bubble outside of your experience, even though, in reality, what you eat is your experience in a lot of ways. To you, digestion is really synonymous with a variety of physical sensations, thoughts, and emotions. Again, a lot of this is subjective, so you have to see for yourself. Like I said in the beginning, I don't want you to believe me, I just want you to check and see if it's true in your experience. Before I continue, am I saying that you should chalk up every thought and feeling you have to nutrition? No, but it is a significant layer and you'd be surprised how big of an effect it has. The fastest way to apply this would be to do two things. 1. Consider food as one of the first variables that's influencing your state of being. Check what you ate over the last 72 hours, which is an exercise in itself for most people, and see if there's anything you've consumed that is an obvious cause for suspicion. Junk food, alcohol, drugs, etc. 2. Whenever you eat something, pay attention to how you react to it over the next few days. This supports your awareness from another angle. You could technically use a food journal or you could take notes or something, but if you just pay attention, that works well over time. Gradually, you'll become more and more aware of how certain foods impact your state of being. That's what I did for more than a few days, but I wanted to write out a more detailed guideline. This guideline roughly shows you how to align the stages of digestion with your experience so you have a better awareness of what foods affect you across different time frames. As a side note, I am completely glossing over the fact that this process creates your entire existent experience. If you can become aware of the effect of the foods that you eat, then you will know what foods to eat and what foods not to eat from a nutritional standpoint. This isn't about weight loss. I'll do another video about calories, weight loss, and all of that. But by noticing the full effect of food, you become conscious of when and how they made you feel good or not good, rather than being tricked by how they make you feel during the first 1/4 or 1/3 of the digestive process. It can take up to 72 hours depending on what you eat for the food to be fully absorbed and assimilated. Within this window, different foods take different times to process. Some of them are easier on your body, and some of them are harder on your body. In this chart, the assimilation phase is a bit inaccurate. That'll happen sometimes when you use ChatGPT to make charts, but the absorption time and the total time ranges are accurate. Your body can store and assimilate certain nutrients, vitamins, and minerals for weeks or months after they've been absorbed. But roughly, let's say this chart reflects how the macronutrients are distributed, your proteins, carbs, and fats. For example, fruits are generally absorbed very quickly, in a few hours. And then from ingestion to excretion, they can take from 12 hours to 24 hours. Vegetables, depending on whether they're raw or cooked, can take a few hours to absorb and anywhere from 8 hours to 40 plus hours to pass through your system. Meats take the longest to absorb and stay in your body the longest. For junk foods, there's a decent range depending on your junk food of choice. And for things like rice, pasta, and bread, the range is something like this. Don't worry so much about the specifics of these. I'll pop them up on the screen again soon when I explain each part of this practically. At any point during this time range, if something you ate did not agree with you, you could be hit with a variety of unpleasant feelings. So if you're only paying attention for a couple of hours after you've eaten, but that thing you ate is really going to hit you 12 hours later, you can easily mistake that feeling as something caused by your external situation. We're already very aware of the first and last stage of the digestion process, the eating part and going to the bathroom. But when it comes to the in-between, we're a bit lost. After you eat something, it's going to affect you in different stages. Your first experience is obviously eating. If this is where most of your attention is, you'll probably prioritize taste over everything else. After you eat something, you begin to digest it. The first way you notice this is the physical feeling of food in your body. This is the first thing to pay attention to. The first thing you can notice is the physical increase in mass in your chest and stomach area. This is important to notice because when you do, you won't want to lay down after you eat. The way food gets into your stomach happens in stages. When you swallow, this opens an entrance to your stomach. The entrance to your stomach is otherwise closed so that none of the food comes back into your esophagus. However, if you eat too much, this can cause food to push upward or even stay in the upper part of your esophagus. On the bottom of your stomach, there's an exit that opens around every 20 minutes or so that lets food into your small intestine. If you lay down after eating and you've eaten too much, or the food hasn't been so well digested, any food that's still in your esophagus smushes your heart and lungs, and when you swallow while you're laying down, because we swallow intermittently just as a reflex, this opening happens. When that happens, things can easily come back up, causing acid reflux or just discomfort. This won't happen forever because your digestive tract does propel food through it automatically, but really this is very unpleasant when you notice that it's happening. The amount of food in your stomach can also restrict physical movement, especially depending on the volume of food that you've eaten. Your first response to food is going to be predominantly neurological and psychological in nature. In other words, your mood and energy change. After this, you'll gradually start to feel food impact you at a structural level. Depending on the type and quantity of food that you ate and how you personally process the food, once you begin to digest it, you will feel your energy and mood change in line with this. Absorption is the part of this process that you clearly notice as an energy or mood change. This could be an increase in energy, or it could be an increase in lethargy, calmness, relaxation, and a feeling of heaviness, or an energy spike followed by an energy crash. Or again, depending on the person, some combination of these. You've probably heard absorption mentioned alongside caffeine or other drugs. They want to know how long it takes the drug to absorb and how long it stays in the system, measured by half-life. All food works that way in a sense. After some time, you notice food in the structure of your body. Things like the speed of your recovery, the stiffness or comfort in your joints, your hair, skin, and nails, the inflammation in your body, your level of flexibility even. I've noticed that eating certain foods increases my injury risk as a trickle down of this process. This can also show up as an increase or decrease in your baseline energy levels, brain fog, heart rate, and muscle tension. This reflects when food assimilates as part of your body, after it's broken down into its component nutrients. The big problem right now is that we're eating foods that make us feel great in the moment while they're being absorbed, but by the time they make us feel bad while they're assimilating into our body structures, or there's still waste from them in our colon, which both happen somewhere within that 3-day window, we don't realize it was the food. So we keep consuming more foods like that, and it creates a downward spiral. The purpose of those time frames that I'm showing you is to give an idea of what is happening. The effect of the foods isn't really hidden, you just haven't noticed it yet because you haven't been paying attention. You can notice the effect something is having pretty immediately, it's just subtle. Gradually it becomes less subtle. It's kind of something that you can't unnotice once you notice it. Similarly, almost anything that feels too good to be true has a rebound effect that's the opposite of the initial effect. For example, caffeine makes you feel more alert, energetic, and maybe even lifts your mood. But the rebound makes you feel dull, lethargic, and maybe even angry or irritable. If you really wanted to take this seriously, you'd eat the same foods every day and you'd make slight variations to see the change, which is sort of like an elimination diet. But you probably eat roughly the same set of foods each week or each month, so in my opinion, you can just start to pay attention. That's what I did. Your baseline state, the way you exist, is not supposed to be uncomfortable. Foods that have a neutral effect after you eat them, mainly fruits and leafy greens from my experience, seem to have a positive effect upstream. You have no reaction to them at first, but as they integrate into your body, you feel good. After you pay attention to these things over a period of time, you'll notice that food has a significant impact on your physical, mental, and emotional state. Nutrition is not something that you don't know, it's just something that you haven't detected in your current experience yet. Food is the material that creates all of your neurotransmitters, hormones, body tissues, and everything else that creates your experience of life. The whole struggle with nutrition is that your body may be giving you feedback, but if you're not conscious of the time frame for that feedback, you can very easily mistake a sensation that's being produced by the food that you ate as something that is being caused by an external event. To recap, a lot of the things that we consume have a quality where the initial consumption makes us feel great. But hours or even days later, they can make us feel worse. What we are doing today is eating things that feel good when we absorb them, but make us feel worse when we assimilate them. Then, in order to combat that feeling, we eat more foods that feel good at first and hurt us later, or consume various stimulants and substances to combat the downward spiral. It's a vicious cycle that destroys our health. Starting to notice this process plants a seed to make significant changes in your current nutrition. In the description, I've linked a couple channels that are very useful to check out when it comes to nutrition. Some of them deal with mainly calorie counting, some of them deal with a more health-driven approach to food, some of them are very holistic. I'll include maybe 4 or 5. Besides that, that is all for this video. If you would like to read the version of this video as an article, you can check the link in the description where you can read and subscribe to my newsletter. I come out with articles basically corresponding to the videos. You could also follow me on X if you want some more up-to-date information that's coming from me. And if you want to support the channel, there's a GoFundMe I linked in the description as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment with suggestions, feedback, opinions. Tell me your experience. with nutrition, and give me any ideas or topics that you want to see a video about. Thanks for watching.